It was full moon night in the kingdom of Kapilvastu, and Princess Yashodhara awoke from her dreams in the silence of the night. She was about to experience an event that changed the course of mankind. She was about to experience the great renunciation of Buddha. She had seen in her dreams that her husband, Siddhartha, was leaving her and their newborn son to seek the ultimate truth. She told Siddhartha, her husband and the crown prince of the kingdom of Kapilvastu, about her dream and requested him not to leave her alone. Siddhartha thought he was seeking the path of truth, so he assured her that she will not be left alone. That promise was fulfilled several years after the renunciation of Buddha, when she joined the order of nuns in the Sangha. Meanwhile, Siddhartha stayed awoke, contemplating the four fleeting signs of old age, sickness, death, and peace in nirvana he had experienced few days back. He asked his charioteer Chandaka to saddle his horse. The night has finally arrived for the great renunciation of Buddha. King Suddhodana of Kapilvastu was a very worried father at that time, because he had come to know about the inclination of Siddhartha to seek the path of renunciation and nirvana. He always remembered the words of astrologers that if Siddhartha chooses to stay at home, he will become a universal monarch. But if he leaves the house and renounces the world, he will become an Arhat, an enlightened Buddha. King Suddhodana, in his last effort to prevent his 29-year-old son from leaving the palace, had set guards around the gates of the city. This was the last effort from the king to prevent the renunciation of Buddha. The king's brothers guarded the different gates of the city. The northern gate was guarded by Amritodana, the southern gate by Dronodana, the western gate was guarded by the Suklodana, and the eastern gate by King Suddhodana himself. The center of the palace was guarded by Mahanama with a small contingent of troops. Siddhartha patted his horse Kantaka gently and left his palace with Chandaka. The full moon was shining bright in the night sky, clear of any clouds. When he reached the center of the city, he found Mahanama with his troop. Mahanama pleaded with Siddhartha not to renounce the world and cried. He begged and told about all the pains that his loved ones will have to go through once Siddhartha renounced this material world. Saka, the king of gods, was helping Siddhartha in the great renunciation and had put all guards on sleep through his spell. Siddhartha reached the eastern gate of Kapilvastu, and the god who was residing there opened the gate for him. The moment he crossed the eastern gate, Mara appeared and, standing in the air, requested Siddhartha not to renounce the material world and told him that 7th day of that day, Siddhartha would become the universal monarch. Siddhartha refused and continued his journey. Suddenly, he had a desire to have another look at the city. With his desire, the earth turned around so that Siddhartha would not have to turn back. This was an important event during the process of the great renunciation of Buddha. At that place, a stupa was erected to mark that event, which was called Kantaka Nivattana Stupa. He travelled through the night, and after crossing the river Anoma, he stopped. The river Anoma bordered 3 cities of Kapilvastu, Savatthi, and Vaishali. He gave his ornaments to Chandaka and asked him to return to Kapilvastu with Kantaka, his horse. Chandaka cried and pleaded to remain with him, but Siddhartha asked him to return to Kapilvastu and tell his family members about his quest. Siddhartha took his sword and cut his hair and threw them in the air. Saka and other gods appeared in the sky and took them to heaven. Siddhartha continued with his journey. The crown prince was now a wandering ascetic on his quest for the ultimate truth of life. He was now living on alms given by laity and had no permanent abode. He rested under a tree by the day and spent his night inside some secluded cave. Barefooted, he kept on walking south. He crossed the river Ganges and reached the city of Rajgriha. As he was walking through the streets, the people of Rajgriha were awestruck by his royal appearance and calm gait. Soon the news reached Bimbisar, the king of Rajgriha, that a monk who looks no less than gods is seeking alms in his city. Bimbisar had a look of Siddhartha from the terrace of his palace. He was struck by his looks and royal appearance. He sent his courtier to fill his alms bowl and another courtier to find where the monk was going. The courtier brought the news that the monk was staying at the Pandava hills. Bimbisar went to the Pandava hills to meet the young monk the next morning. After bowing to the young monk, Bimbisar requested him to stay at Rajgriha. He offered him land, a palace, and all that would make his life comfortable. The young monk answered that he was Siddhartha, the crown prince of Kapilvastu, the kingdom of Sakyas. He had renounced the worldly life to find an answer to the pains of humankind and was in search of the ultimate truth of life. He wanted to win over desires and not to indulge in them. Bimbisar requested that once Siddhartha reached his goal, he should teach him the path of unsurpassed knowledge and wisdom. Siddhartha promised to teach the path once he attains the ultimate truth of life, and he left for the Vulture Peak, another hill in the vicinity of Rajgriha. The Vulture Peak was full of ascetics. He lived there with the ascetics and practiced their mortifications and meditations. Soon he surpassed them all in mortifications and was called the Great Ascetic or Mahashramana. It was not long that he learned that the ultimate goal of ascetics of Vulture Peak was to attain heaven and not enlightenment and finding the ultimate truth of life. He left them in disgust. The scriptures tell that after his brief stay with the ascetics of Vulture Peak, he went to Vaishali to the renowned ascetic and teacher of his time, Alara Kalama. Alara Kalama led a strict monastic life with his 300 disciples. Siddhartha soon learned and mastered his doctrine of state of nothingness. Alara Kalama offered him the leadership of his disciples as equal to him. Siddhartha turned down his offer, as he had realized that the doctrine of Alara Kalama was not the answer to his quest for the ultimate truth of life. The doctrine did not lead to the cessation of pain or enlightenment and Nibbana. He left Alara Kalama and went to another sage, Uddaka Ramputta. Ramputta was a famous ascetic at the time of Buddha and lived near Rajgriha with his 700 disciples. Siddhartha soon learned and mastered the doctrine of Ramputta, which was called neither perception nor non-perception. Uddaka Ramputta proposed to make him the leader of his entire school of the disciples, including himself. But Siddhartha found this doctrine also to be unsatisfactory and abandoned him for the higher goal of finding the ultimate truth of life. Siddhartha has realized that there was no teacher capable enough under whom he could attain the supreme enlightenment and Nibbana. He had realized that the highest truth was to be found within himself and seeking external help was futile. He came to the army township of Uruvela and settled at the banks of the river Niranjana. Standing on the bank of the river Niranjana, he was lost in deep contemplation about the spot and its bliss. He thought that the location was ideal for an ascetic to practice extreme self-mortification to attain the ultimate enlightenment. The clear waters of the river Niranjana flowed through a rich fertile land with several small hamlets scattered around in the landscape. Siddhartha thought that the place was very pleasant and the right spot for meditation and penance for attaining ultimate enlightenment. He decided to dwell at that spot, which was charming forest grove. There were villages and townships nearby where he could obtain food during his alms round. In ancient India, great importance was attributed to sacrifices, penances, rites, and ceremonies. It was believed that the sufferings of life could be won over only by the sufferings of the body. There was no scope of deliverance without leading a life of asceticism, sacrifices, and penances. Siddhartha made extreme efforts towards this end for the next 6 years. He moved up the Dungeshwari hills and practiced extreme forms of self-mortifications to attain ultimate enlightenment. His soft and shining royal body was reduced to a skeleton and his skin turned black. He spent the entire period living alone and naked in the forest of Dungeshwari Hills, sleeping on beds of thorns. He never took shelter from rain, heat, and cold and spent the hot summer days and winter nights meditating on the open grounds. He hardly ate and he denied every kind of nourishment to his body. At most, he used to eat only one fruit or a few grains of rice or a few seeds. He started torturing his body to extremes. His body got covered in dirt and filth and he appeared loathsome. He stopped cutting his hair or beard for months. Impressed by the renunciation of Siddhartha and his extreme self-mortifications, the 5 Brahmins whom he had met in Rajgriha came to him and requested him to accept them as his disciple. Siddhartha accepted all these 5 Brahmins as his disciple. Later, Buddha shared the details of his self-mortifications during his struggle for attaining ultimate enlightenment with his chief disciple Sariputta. Buddha told Sariputta that because he practiced these extreme forms of mortifications, his limbs became like knotted joints of the wasted creepers. His backbone appeared like a string of balls and his ribs like exposed rafters. His eyes sunk deep in the socket and his sparkling pupils appeared like water at the end of a deep well. His scalp shrunk like a dried up bitter gourd cut into 2 and left in the heat of the sun. When he touched the skin of his belly, he got hold of the skin of his back, and when he tried to touch the skin of his back, he got hold of the skin of his belly. His rotting hairs used to fall from his body whenever he stroked his legs with his hands. He used to negate breathing and used to hold his breath for long periods, which produced extreme sweating, loud roaring inside his head, extreme pain in his stomach, and severe headaches. Due to these extreme forms of self-mortifications, one day he collapsed and lost consciousness. However, Siddhartha regained his consciousness after some time, but by that time he had already realized that there was no higher realization in self-mortifications. He realized that the starvation to death did not lead to attainment of the state of supreme consciousness or ultimate enlightenment, nor the extreme self-mortification led to true knowledge. He had realized that supreme liberation cannot be attained with a weak and starving body. He decided that he will find his path of ultimate enlightenment on his own and will not depend upon the teachings of other ascetics. He decided to regain his strength and take nourishment. He started to go back to the village and beg for food, and gradually he began to regain the former strength and beauty of his tender body. His 5 disciples thought that Siddhartha has left the higher path and instead selected the easier path of comfort and luxury, and soon they abandoned him in disgust. Buddha continued on his quest for ultimate truth.